Now, we've not hit a really cold spell yet, but with the cost of energy having increased just a few weeks ago, it's still a worry for many, in particular for residents living with shared council-run heating systems who pay much higher bills compared to, well, most of us, and who sometimes need to take out loans or even use credit cards to meet the cost. Thomas Magill has been hearing about their problems.
So Gloucester Grove Estate's one of a number of estates that are connected to the North Peckham district heating network.
Mike bought his flat in 2021 and pays a service charge to Southwark Council, which includes his heating and hot water. It comes from a communal boiler that serves over 700 homes. But shortly after moving in, Mike saw a huge hike in the amount he was paying. The majority of the bill was going on gas.
We can see here for heating and hot water, the total estimate for the year they think is £5,094.17. So that is, I think, it's fair to say, a lot of money, particularly considering that when we got this bill, the energy price cap was hovering around £1,500, £1,600.
He says his bill is unaffordable, and like many other communal networks in Southwark, his is inefficient and unfair.
Because the system isn't metered, you don't actually pay for what you use. You just pay a proportion of what the whole system uses. So even if we turned off all the radiators the whole year, even if we had cold showers for a whole year, we would still be on the hook to pay a huge bill.
Well, this council document from last month looking into heat networks across Southwark has confirmed that Max and his neighbours are paying way more than what would be expected. Ofgem say that the average 2 to 3 bedroom property should be using around 11,500 kilowatt hours. Yet in here, the document says that the average use of all the properties in Southwark served by a heat network is around 19,000 kilowatt hours. It goes on to say that the North Peckham heat network serving Max's home is using on average over a staggering 28,000 kilowatt hours. Southwark admits there is an issue with its North Peckham boiler and says an in-depth investigation is ongoing.
353%, it was kind of just gobsmackingly outrageous.
In neighbouring Lambeth, some residents living on council estates served by the same communal style system say they're facing even greater problems, and that's leaving many in debt and struggling to pay.
Well, it's disbelief just to see the changes in our rent and service charge. This has gone up by 353%.
Carol lives alone in her Wellington Mill home near Lambeth North and was horrified when she was sent a bill for thousands of pounds.
I did not have the strength, and I sent I paid by credit card. I'd had enough.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, the worry must be something shocking if you're putting that.
I think I've become numb. Even I've become numb. I mean, I'm a pension. I'm not on a pension credit.
Obviously, it's stretching me to the limit to keep paying my bills, and I've always been brought up like you don't get into debt. Culturally, it's a very big thing for me to be in debt, and it's a worry.
I run a food bank here at the hall, so I speak to a lot of people that are struggling, and I know people have used credit cards and have taken out loans and have cut back on everything else just so that they can pay this heating to Lambeth because they're just absolutely terrified of being evicted.
Lambeth Council said the rise residents seen in their 2023-24 bill was outside the council's control and unfortunately had to be passed on to tenants. They say charges for this year have decreased and it's hoped next year will be kept as low as possible. Carol is determined to stay in her beloved home, but if bills continue to rise, others fear they may have no choice but to move.
OK, let's get more on this from Thomas. I know this has affected a lot of people and we'll get to that in a moment. But tell me this, how do heat networks even work?
So Assad, first of all, they're basically a massive boiler that generates energy in multiple properties from a central source, like we heard in Peckham there. Now, once the heat has been generated, it's then transferred through a central boiler through a network of pipes into people's homes. Now, the council would say the benefit to that is that they're buying vast quantities of gas at a much lower price. So in theory, it should be super cost effective for the consumer. And they're buying the gas on a commercial basis. So it's not covered by the energy price cap set by the regulator Ofgem there. And therefore, one of the problems is that the price can be quite volatile and subject to sudden hikes. Now, Steve Knight from the Heat Trust, which champions consumers in this area, says that may be part of the reason why Max and the others I spoke to today might feel like they're having a bad deal at the moment.
Not only have prices for domestic gas consumers gone up a little bit, but I mean, they've been capped by Ofgem and price cap and so on. But the price which councils and other landlords pay for their communal heating systems has gone up massively, and that's because they buy their gas as commercial entities, and Ofgem doesn't price regulate the price for commercial contracts for energy, and therefore the customers, the people living on these estates, have been sometimes seeing massive increases.
Like I touched upon earlier, a lot of people have been getting in touch about this, haven't they?
Absolutely, because it affects a lot of people. Tower Hamlets, we think, have got about 34,000 properties on heat networks. In Southwark alone, 20,000 properties as well. All day today, I've been receiving emails, dozens of emails from people around Southwark and the rest of London saying that they're really concerned about this and it doesn't feel like value for money at the moment. So I promise we'll be looking into all of those emails in the coming days.
And tell me, is there any light at the end of the tunnel for all these people affected?
Well, basically, the people I've been speaking to say they just want to pay for what they use, and that can only happen if a meter is fitted into every property. The second thing they want is for the regulator to introduce regulation, and in the coming year or so, the regulator Ofgem will be introducing regulation, but that's going to take time and it's going to take money, and as we know, councils at the moment are saying they're very short of money.
Yeah, well, let's keep an eye on what happens. Thomas, thanks very much for that. Well, like Thomas says, many viewers have been getting in touch about this very subject of communal heating costs. If it affects you, drop us a line. We follow up on all those people who do get in touch with us. This is the address to email, hello@bbclondon@bbc.co.uk. It's also the address for other stories you might want to tell us about too, so do make a note of that.